Alright, so 1, 4. Whoop. Whoop. Yep. Alright, so at the top, 1, 4, intro to angles. Intro stands for introduction. Okay, if this ever gets unfocused, this is kind of my first time using this doc cam, so if it gets unfocused or you guys can't see, will you let me know? Because it's hard for me to remember sometimes. Alright, so we have a lot of definitions today. Our first definition is going to be ray. And these are all really important vocabulary words. They're words we're going to use throughout the year. So ray is part of a line with one endpoint. Part of a line with one endpoint. I need this to be like that, but it won't stay up. Okay. So for example, if we have a ray that goes across here, it's going to have an endpoint, and then it's going to keep going on and on and on in one direction. So we do have an arrow there. Okay, I like to think about it as the rays of the sun. Sun rays come from what? Yeah, they come from the sun. They go from the sun out. Do the rays of light go into the sun? No, that wouldn't make sense because it's like a solid, right? Okay, so it's like a sun ray. It comes out that way. So I'm going to label this B, and then we're going to put another point on here named K. When we notate rays in geometry, instead of a line above or a segment above, this time we have a ray, and that ray above usually always goes left to right. So we have an arrow on one side. But then the way that we say it is really important, because this has to be the start of the ray, and this has to go to where is it headed to. So what point does it start at? B. And then what point is it going through and then going past, on and on? Okay. So that works. What does not work is if we do ray KB. That is not what is happening. Okay, so if you need that example to show you that that does not work, that's a non-example. Okay, even if that ray looks different. If it was T and then P. What? Because it's toilet paper. It's easy to remember. Alright, TP, again, even when we name it, that line is going to go left to right for our symbol, and then underneath it, we're going to put those points. So even though this looks like it's going to the left, we're going to make it so it goes to the right. So what is our first point? Where does it start at? T. Where does it end at? Or not end at, where does it go through? P. Do we know where it ends? Does it end? No. Alright, next up we have angle, which is really what we are working on today, is angle. What I noticed last period is a lot of people knew what an angle was, but when we talk about the different characteristics, they're part of things that we've always talked about, or we've just said, yep, that's part of the angle. So we're going to kind of be looking at those smaller characteristics of an angle. So an angle is made of two rays. Alright, I'm just going to do my basic angle that I usually do, which is probably like a 60-degree angle. So go ahead and draw an angle there. We're going to have 3 points on that angle. We're going to do L, M, P. Also in that angle, we're going to have a little 3 right inside there. That was probably a little too close, but we have 3 really near that angle where it connects. So here are some characteristics of the angle that you need to know. You need to know how to name it. Today on your practice work, there'll be some where it asks you for the name. Make sure you're reading the directions on your practice work. We had a lot of students that were typing in different parts to different things, and it was like, whoa. Okay, to name it, we're going to use this little angle sign. And it's just the same angle no matter what this angle looks like. They just kind of look the same in this case. But we always use that little angle sign. And we're going to use 3 letters. The 3 letters we use have to be like if we're tracing the angle. Okay, so if I was going to trace that angle, what letter would I start at? What point would I start at? If I start at M, can I do the whole angle without picking up my pencil? No, so I can't start at M because I would be like M, P, and then I don't have anywhere to go. That just keeps going on. So I'm going to start at L, and then go towards M, and then go to P. So our first way to name is LMP. Your instincts were on though, Johan. We're going to use that in just a little bit. Okay, what's another way that we can, what'd you say? Can I zoom in a little? I can try. Is that better? More? Less? Okay. The next one we're going to do is still using letters, but instead of starting at L, going to M, and then P, where else could I have started tracing from? P. I could have done P, M, then L. So those are both different ways to say that angle. Okay, and then the last way sometimes is not always there or available to us. We'll see a little letter in the corner. Not letter. What do we call that? A number? Okay, a little number in the corner that says 3. So we might call it angle 3. So those are 3 ways we can name that. When we're talking about angle, we're talking about the sides of the angle, where the sides meet, and then usually we're talking about that kind of space between that angle. Okay, so if you want to just shade in really lightly, the space in between the sides, that's the inside of the angle. That's usually what we're looking at, is that interior, that inside. All right, another characteristic is vertex. All right, and the vertex of an angle is, what is a vertex? You guys know that. You guys remember we had parabolas, those U-shaped graphs, and we found the vertex last year? What is the vertex? What's a way to describe it? What? You pointed at it. Yeah, in the corner. It's kind of like the middle or the corner. It's where they meet. So I'm just going to write that as kind of a small definition. It's like kind of the middle, or it's the corner. It's where they meet. So in this case, what point do the two sides meet? Yeah, M. And what is M? M is a point. So when we label it, we're going to label it point M. Okay, that's right in the middle. So that's our vertex. All right, last part of our characteristics here on just this one is sides. And sides sounds just like how it is. It's the different sides. There's two sides to the angle. It's made out of two rays. What's one of the sides of the angle? Yeah, the M. Yeah, ML. This part right here is a side, right? Yeah. And that's a ray. So we're going to do a ray. It starts at M and it goes to L. Goes past L. What's the other side called? What's the other ray? MP. It starts at M, it still starts at that vertex, goes through P. So notice that vertex is really important. That M, when we do our sides, that's what we start with. We start with ML, MP. That's how we know it's the vertex, it's where they connect. In our name, where does the M, what order does the M come in? The middle. That's that vertex, it's that middle point. Alright, next up, we got measures of angles. I'll move it in a second, sorry. I just started writing it. Alright, so if you just came back, we're in our interactive notebooks, so you should have your notebook out. I would leave the top half of your notes blank, and then top half of one page blank, and I'll give you the notes to copy. Okay, so go down half a page. Alright, measures of angles. When we measure angles, we use degrees. Now, when we use degrees, we're not talking about degrees Fahrenheit or degrees Celsius. We're just talking about degrees. It's just a plain degrees. So let's talk about that for a second. If I make a full circle, how many degrees are in a full circle? 360. Okay, those of you that watch skateboarding, maybe at the Olympics this summer, you hear them doing like 720s, 940s, right? That's all degrees that they're talking about. How many degrees is a straight line? 180, because it's half of a circle. So that's 180 degrees. We're going to get really used to using a 90 degree. So 90 degree is like an L. Now if you just see an L, you can't assume, you can't just say, yep, that's 90 degrees. There has to be a special symbol there to indicate that it's 90. What special symbol do we use? The little square, yep. If we see that square, now we know, yep, it's 90 degrees. Alright, and then the other one we're going to use quite a bit this year that you'll get really comfortable with is 45 degrees, and that's just half of 90. So do your best to try and make half of that 90 degrees. That's kind of a good one to keep in your brain, just as we go. Okay, we're about halfway through. You guys are crushing it. Alright, if we had a problem here that said draw angle STK so that And then there's going to be an M angle STK. What do you think the M before the angle might stand for? This is going to stand for measure. It's the way that we measure it. We're going to say measure of angle STK.
So this is kind of important because usually when we have a line and we label it with a lowercase letter, you might see that lowercase and think that that is the name of the line.
Is that what Hamza said?
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't hear him.
That little angle sign, that tells us it's the measure of the angle.
Good. Okay, so measure of angle STK, we're going to make it 110 degrees. So we're going to draw an angle. First thing we're going to do is when we draw it 110 degrees, what do we want it to look like? Do we want it to look kind of near which one here? That's going to be the closest it will look like. Yeah, look more like 90, but it's going to be a little over, right? So I'm going to go maybe about there is 110 degrees. But when it says STK, that tells me the 3 points that I need to use. There is one point in particular that has to go in a certain place. Which point has to go in a certain place? T. Where does T have to go? In the middle, in the corner, because that's the vertex. So T has to go in the middle because it goes STK. Now, S and K, does it matter which one is which? Nope. So you can put S or K up here and the other one down here. But the point is when we trace it, we should be able to trace S, T, K without picking up our pencil. Alright, we have one more big word and then we just have some review words that you guys already said today that I heard you say that we're just going to review. Okay, last big word is angle bisector. Yesterday we talked about a segment bisector. What was a segment bisector? Step back if you need to. Segment bisector. Yeah, it's where it cuts it in half. So it cuts a segment in half. So an angle bisector is going to be a ray that cuts a what? An angle in half. I'm going to just draw one quick picture here of that, and then we have a couple more easy words that we aren't going to write a lot of things for, and then one example that's a little complicated. So if you're about left with the same amount of room, we'll have to go on to the next page. Alright, so we're going to start by drawing an angle. I'm going to do an acute angle facing, I'm going to try and go the other way, which I'm not great at drawing. I'm going to go this way. Yikes. I always go the other way. I don't really ever have them open to the left. That's kind of hard for me to draw. Alright, we're going to have M, J, T. So we're going to bisect that angle. We're going to cut it in half. So do your best when you draw this next line, do your best to draw it right down that middle. Mine wasn't perfect by any means. It was a little too high. We're going to put P at the end of that line. So we know that angle... No, let me say that again. We know that ray, JP, bisects What's the bigger angle that it bisects? TJM or MJT. So the bigger angle TJM, this is cutting it in half. So when it gets cut in half, what do we know about those two smaller angles now? What do we know about this angle and this angle? Yeah. They're going to be what? Same size. And in math or in geometry, when we say same size, what's our word that starts with a C? Congruent. So let's name them. Angle. What's one of the smaller angles? M. Let's do the one with M. M. J. We don't want to go with the big angle. We want the smaller angle. MJP is congruent. So again, the equal sign with a little squiggly. To angle. What's the other smaller angle? Sure, PJT, or you could do TJP. Whew. All right, to show congruency in the picture, remember in segments we use that little tick mark? For angles, we use arcs. So I'm going to put an arc here, and then I'm going to put an arc here. Even though they're at separate parts, because there's one arc and one arc, that means they match. Or you could do two arcs, but because it goes 1, 2, 1, 2, we know they're the same. So if we know that this is 33 degrees, what else do we know? The other one's 33 degrees. What? The whole thing is 66. So we're going to say the measure of angle. What's the whole thing? What's that angle called? TJM is equal to 66 degrees. All right, make sure you have that written down because I'm going to go on to the next page. We have a little bit more left yet. This is going to now be kind of the easier vocabulary for some of you. Damien, I can just give you my book after. Can you normally not see? Struggling today. All right. We got obtuse. This is when we classify an angle. So if you want to put that, so classifying angles, we would classify it as obtuse. And what does obtuse mean? Yeah, it's an angle bigger than 90. So I'm just going to write more than 90 degrees. So it looks like something like that. Okay, it could be a lot of different places, but that's one of the places. Okay, what's the other one other than obtuse? Acute. And what is acute? Less than 90. Now, some teachers like to have you remember it by saying, like, oh, it's such a cute little angle. It's so cute. But don't you think some of our bigger angles want to be called cute, too? All angles are cute, you guys. Okay, but acute means it's smaller than 90 degrees. All right, what's the other type of angle? A right angle. What does right angle mean? Exactly 90 degrees. Good. And exactly 90 degrees looks like that L. And it can go in any direction as long as that's at 90 degrees. And then what shape do we put in the corner? Yep, that box to show that it's 90. Alright, here's the new one that goes with this that you might not have heard before, but you're going to probably get the idea of right away. Sometimes we say straight angle. Other times we might hear the same thing as opposite rays. They mean the same thing. They're two different ways of saying it. So I'm just writing both. What are you thinking when you hear straight angle or opposite rays? What might it look like? Yeah, 180 degrees, like your pencil. So, as far as a straight ray goes, what it's thinking about is if I draw a ray. I'm sorry, let me say it again. For opposite rays, the reason it says that is because if I draw a ray going that way, what is the opposite of that ray? Going the other way exactly enough to make 180 degrees. That's the exact opposite, is 180 degrees opposite. Yep. Alright, we have one example we're going to do, and then you have the rest of the time to work. Normally I just number my examples, but we only have one example, so it might be weird to just say one. I don't know. When I look back, I'm going to know what it means. You do what you know it's going to mean. Alright, I'm going to give you directions on how to draw this. There's a lot to draw. So try and follow step by step with me, okay? Alright, we're going to draw a horizontal line, so side to side. From that line, we're going to put a point kind of to the right side, a little bit off to the right. We're going to draw a ray from that point going up to the right. And we're going to draw a ray going up to the left. We are going to connect this ray with the line to make a triangle. Do you guys all get it? Okay, now we're going to label our points. So we have a point here, 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 and here. This point on the line, the first one we see is W. The middle point on that same line is T. And then the last point is K. These points up here are going to be X and M. Alright, last part, we are going to put in some numbers. So numbers go in the corner next to the angle. So this corner here is going to be a 1. The top corner of that triangle is a 2. Bottom is a 3. Then here is going to be a 4. And last we have a 5. Alright, because we're taking notes, we're not going to write out the whole question. If it's going to bother you not to write out the whole question, you can write out like, what is the vertex of angle something? I'm going to just write vertex and then the angle. Okay. First off, our first question we're going to ask ourselves is, what is the name of angle 3? So angle 3 is one name. I want to know another name for angle 3. And I'm going to grab a colored pencil. So if you would like to grab a colored pencil, feel free. If you want to grab 2 or 3 colored pencils. Alright, so when we see angle 3, I'm going to make it purple. Okay, angle 3 is in this corner. What that means is that's the corner where it connects. That's the vertex. So angle 3 is here and here. It's that purple angle where it comes together there. So what's another name for that purple angle? Good, XTW. What's another name we could name it? WTX. And then the other name is angle 3. All right. What is the vertex of angle 1? That's the question. What is the vertex of angle 1? So I'm gonna switch colors to orange. It's just really important. When I say angle 1, we all have to be looking at the same angle. So angle 1 is here in the corner, so that means we're looking at it from starting up here. It hits that 1, and then it makes that corner. So even that purple and that orange overlap there, we're just talking about just the orange there. What is the vertex of that angle? Just the vertex is W. That's the middle of the orange. So point W. All right, last part, and then we are donezies. I want to know if I add the measure of angle 4 and I put that together with the measure of angle 5. What's the angle that I'll be making out of those two? So angle 4, I'm going to do green. Angle 5, I'll do pink, I guess. Kind of running out of colors. I guess you needed 4 colors, sorry. So if I put that 4 and 5 together, like if I smoosh them together, they're sharing that M. What's the bigger angle that they make together? Good. X, T, K. When we talk about adding, we just have to use that measurement, but we're really looking at angle 4, angle 5. Put them together, and that creates that whole XTK. You guys crushed it. All right. For the rest of the time, there is an A4 practice in Schoology. It is a little bit shorter. Here's the big deal about A4. If you score, for sure if you score less than 3.5 on it, we really want you to try it again. Okay, I would say if you scored a 4, I would try it one more time. If you scored above a 4, then we're pretty happy with it. But this is really important vocabulary, that if this is a struggle for you, you really got to nail this down for the rest of the year to be successful. Okay, so I'd for sure try to get a 4 or higher on the A4 practice. It's in Schoology.